While others doubted Tesla, today's guest kept buying. Nancy Tengler is a portfolio manager who's been a Tesla bull since 2013, right alongside legends like Ron Barron and Cathie Wood. And now, with institutions upgrading Tesla and momentum turning, her conviction is stronger than ever. Today, we'll hear from Nancy on why Tesla has a secret advantage over other auto companies, when optimists will be recognized as a catalyst, and why she knew 3 months ago that Tesla was back and about to skyrocket. Nancy is CEO and Chief Investment Officer of wealth management firm Laffer Tengler Investments, with her investment management career spanning more than 30 years. Nancy is a sought-after financial commentator on many national media outlets. Welcome, Nancy. Welcome back to our channel.
Herbert, so good to be with you. And I'm just going to do a little commercial. I'm a big fan, and I watch your podcast all the time. So well done. Kudos. I don't know how you made this a full-time gig, but it's awesome.
It is fun. Yeah, it's been great. I've enjoyed talking to you. I think this might be our third or maybe even fourth, I think third time. And what struck me with you, of course, is you have had this strong conviction for years. And you've told your story in previous shows about Ron Barr is actually one of your mentors,
Yeah.
but you had to have conviction. And obviously many of the long-term Tesla investors here know the pain that we've gone through. But you were there, and you were one of the lone voices that would go on these shows and say, it's strong. Well, so about 3 months ago, you were on CNBC and you had this show, and the title was, this was 3 months ago, Tesla's back. And I don't know how you had that conviction 3 months ago and you knew that it was happening. What was going on in your mind there?
Well, I think this is going to sound super trite, but I think one of the things that every Tesla investor and every Wall Street analyst should do is read Walter Isaacson's biography of Elon, because what you learn in there is not just his genius, but his determination. And so he frequently kind of teeters on the edge of disaster and then pulls back just in time and gets refocused. And if you notice, he's been pretty benign on X lately for the last number of months, and that has always been a good sign for the stock. But I think for me, it was a number of things. It was the bearish sentiment across the board. We picked off additions to our existing holdings at around $240 a share, and on that show you were talking about, the other guest said, "I'd much rather own Verizon than Tesla."
No way.
I'm not kidding. And I actually, this morning, when I was thinking about what we were going to talk about, I pulled up the performance, and like Tesla's up 40% or whatever it is, and Verizon's up 2%. So I think you underestimate Elon at your own peril. And there's so many moving parts that are so exciting. And I think there was the X AI fundraise, and he's going to come to Tesla shareholders, as you well know. And then the pay package also, which is more recent. But all of those things are bullish for the company, and that's going to always be good for shareholders.
So you're a long-term investor. You invest very differently than many other portfolio managers who we're trying to explain to them, understand the company. You've understood the company from day one. Recently, just in the last week, we're seeing institutional analysts, one after another, have to chase the stock. They're raising it not just by a small amount, $100, $160. This one today did that. Canaccord Genuity, I think, and it's funny that they're doing these massive jumps to catch up to the stock. What do you think that they're thinking? How do institutional analysts think about the stock?
They have models, and sometimes you can't model out the fundamentals. I mean, this stock is more analogous to Amazon than anything else in my career. You're going to have periods of volatility, of underperformance, and lack of earnings growth, but it is transformative, and it's run by a transformative leader. And so for us, like the first round of adding to our holdings, because like when we hang on to a stock, we might have it at a minimum holding, but the first round was after I went to the Lathrop Make a Pack factory tour, and I was like, this is a significant portion of the mind share in this business. Fastest growing, most profitable, really interesting. The electric grade. I mean, all your viewers know this, but the electric utility grade batteries, and that was exciting for us because it was like additional diversification against just selling EVs. And then Optimus has become a really important component in our thinking. And it's hard for analysts to model these things because you don't have any data. It's all guesstimates. And so you really have to see the transformative nature. We launched a new strategy today that's focused on all the thematic emerging technologies. And Tesla's our largest holding in there because it spans AI, robotics, space, and those are all themes in this particular portfolio, along with quantum and nuclear. So, and I'm sure there'll be a player in the quantum space as well. So I think you have to own this stock and you have to be willing to ride it up and down and add to it in periods of volatility. I mean, we added a bunch at 100 when everybody wrote off Elon for selling his shares to buy X, and he was, he didn't know what he was doing, and blah blah blah. We've heard it all before.
I'm trying to understand, like, you are a portfolio manager, you buy when it's low, and then you hold on to it though, right? So there's another portfolio manager who talks about valuation discipline. If the stock gets too high, they'll sell, and they're waiting for the stock to get back down low, and then they'll buy, and they won't buy until, in this case, they're waiting for the stock to fall to 220, and then I'll buy more. And we have a debate, and I said, well, it sounds like you're a momentum investor. No. I'm not a momentum investor. I'm a long-term holder. But then why are you trying to, we're not talking trimming, like I'll sell. He sold all of it.
Yeah.
How come there are portfolio managers that do that? Of course, it's obviously everybody can have their strategy, but you seem to have a different approach.
Well, Herbert, I was trained as a classic value investor, and there was a time when that worked, where valuation drove stock price performance in the future. But when you're in a transformative period, the last one, at least in my career, was in the 1990s. And I've been talking about the analogy to the 1990s for 4 years. And now I'm hearing a lot of other people talk about it. And we know it happened at the end, but I think in this particular environment, we have much more robust technologies and much more compelling companies with fortress balance sheets. But the point is, when technology is transforming, you want to participate, and valuation really isn't the point. And I learned that lesson on Amazon. I watched it for 15 years, and I'm like, I don't get it. There's no earnings. There's no dividend. How do I value this thing? And what you were buying was the vision and the future. And many people were buying AWS and they didn't even know it. And I probably would have been amongst them. That's not a criticism. But when you have great leaders running companies, you really do have to benefit of the doubt them, and also pay attention to the way they think, the way they operate. And we know Elon is intense. He's difficult and wonderful to work for, and that's because he's got a transformative mind. And so, for me, that matters much more in this particular stock than anything else, because I don't need to. I can outperform without picking. I mean, we did trim some when it got above 450 the last time, but that's only because it became an outsized portion of our portfolio, and we do have certain restrictions as portfolio managers. So this is one you want to hold, I believe, for the foreseeable future, if not forever.
Okay, you're speaking like you're a retail analyst. Do you think that I've been hearing a lot more the words when you take a look at these institutional analysts? They're saying that a lot of the overhangs have been removed from Tesla in the last 6 months, last year. That's been holding them back. Do you feel that that's also the case?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we had the Robotaxi launch in Austin. It wasn't a disaster, let's say. It was good enough. I think the company's making progress. There's all sorts of elements that add to the cachet of Tesla. You can order your car and have it delivered. I've heard you talk about that, but also it's a pretty cool attribute. But in general, it looks like deliveries are going to be better than expected. It looks like China's moderating and behaving. But really, we're not buying this company for EV delivery. We're buying it for the AI component, for the future robotics. I mean, just think about this. We have if you can trust the BLS numbers, we have 450,000 unfilled manufacturing jobs in this country. We have a president who wants to bring manufacturing back to the country, But in doing so, he can't accomplish that because there's no jobs. Who can fill those jobs? Well, many of them can be filled by robots. And
Mhm.
so I'm keenly watching how quickly the company moves on delivery, and it's baked into his pay package, as you know. So I think that's one of the most exciting. And then I think I've said this to you before, but I'm counting on Optimus as my home healthcare plan when I get old.
Yeah, you said that. Um, I think you told me before as well, you don't do price targets, right? You're a portfolio manager, but you're not necessarily needing to give price targets out there, correct?
I'm
Yeah,
not a retail analyst. Yeah.
yeah.
I may sound like
And
one, but I'm not.
yeah, but you don't, do you have a price target at all, or just in your mind what it should be? Or again, it's
Well,
just
I mean, what
too
it
low at this point.
should be is probably a lot lower if you're thinking about traditional valuation, as this other portfolio manager you mentioned
Hmm.
is. I mean, I would expect to see the stock over $1,000 a share in the next year
Hmm.
or two, because I think,
Hmm.
as you rightly point out, there are a number of catalysts that are on the horizon, and those are things we're going to be paying attention to. And as a Tesla shareholder, I would love to own some of XAI.
Hmm.
I would love to have a component of SpaceX if that were possible. So I'm hoping that as time goes on, the company becomes a little more creative about how Tesla shareholders can participate in those businesses, because they're pretty they're pretty exciting.
Yeah. Okay. So, about a month ago, I think you messaged me and you said, "Hey, there's a guy that you just interviewed, Adrian Balfour," and you said, "Hey, somebody you need to talk to." And I did. I had him on the channel, and he is a longtime executive for multiple legacy auto companies, and now he's a consultant. He has his own company, Envorso, that consults primarily on software to help the legacy auto how to become more like a Tesla. You had a video published on your channel,
Yeah, it's so
macro. Right?
confusing. We're changing the name. Macro
Oh,
micro moment.
I
Yeah.
like micro. I do like it. Okay, so micro moment in your channel, and then you had a title says Tesla has a secret advantage over other auto companies. Can you explain? Think about what you learned from him.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was so far above my pay grade, but fascinating. And I think what they have is they've built it correctly from the ground up. And so his point is, the other companies have to go and retrofit and try to make autos that, do what Teslas do, but it's all sort of backpedaled pasting and cutting and pasting. And so I think from his standpoint, until they burn it down and start over, they're never going to be
Mhm.
serious competitors. I'm paraphrasing, but I think for the most part, that is his premise. And so when you look at the full self-driving data, or the data that Tesla's been accumulating, that's hard to replicate. In fact, it's impossible to replicate. So when I hear, well, they're going to be, taken out by the big three, or even BYD in wait, did I? Yeah, in China.
Hmm. Hmm.
That to me is silliness, but it's what Wall Street does to make a market, and the hedge funds take advantage of the volatility, and then the stock takes off, and it's got a huge retail support. I think we may have talked about this when I went to We Robot. I felt so
Hmm.
honored to be invited, and then I realized it was me and like 5,000 retail investors.
No,
So he's
no,
got a
no, no,
fan
no.
base for sure.
That's not true. It was a limited. It definitely was a special event.
Oh, well, he
Yeah.
has, a loyal following and shareholders that are not going to sell the stock. That's a great base. That's kind of the floor that share buybacks put under a stock. So yeah, so I think what, Adrian's point was that this is the game in town. And this is how, if you're interested in EV innovation and EV, I think there does need to be more innovation, by the way, but EV dominance on the software side, it's going to be Tesla all day long.
Yeah. He said that autonomy, of course, is something that all the other automakers have to copy. They have to try to get there.
Right.
But he then say that he does not think that other OEMs are going to partner with Tesla for FSD. I had another It's auto executive Michael Dunn was the ex-president of GM. I had him just on last week, and he said he'll take the other side. He thinks that these automakers will have to partner with Tesla no matter what. Adrian's point was that if they partner with them, they're going to become bricks, and they don't want to be bricks and just become a commodity, because everybody knows that autonomy is going to be the killer product,
Yeah.
the
Well,
killer separator. But where do you land on that?
I'm with Mr. Dunn. I mean,
Yeah,
my son has a Tesla. I was just in Hawaii, and that's where
yeah.
he is. And he doesn't use the full self-driving application, but he does text while he drives, and the car tells him when stuff's going on. And I was like, well, I guess this is almost as good, but
Yeah.
it's an incredible vehicle. There's so much to love about it. And I think what we've learned, I mean, Ford already pulled back
Hmm.
their aspirations. So I think what we've learned is these companies are going to be hard pressed to compete. And recreating the wheel is, like they had to finally say "uncle" on the charging stations. And I think Tesla's so far ahead that they will have to come to them, and they'll try to find other ways to differentiate. But a common technology is not a bad thing. You can
So
differentiate around
your portfolio, it sounds like you're very focused on disruptive technology or just technology in general. Like, what are the other holdings that you have?
Yeah, so in techno, this is one of those times where we have a 12 best ideas portfolio. I can never remember what the 12 are,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
and it's kind of a embarrassing because I run the portfolio. But in terms of our new launch, what we tried to do was establish, and this is the emerging technology, so quantum,
Hmm.
space, what I've already mentioned. We tried to establish the leaders, and those are the tier one companies. And we have about 45% of the holdings in the leaders. So think Tesla in its space. Think IBM in quantum, even though
Hmm.
it's not a terribly exciting company. And then we want the enablers. And then underneath that, the speculative names. So, the usual suspects in nuclear that have taken off. We have very modest holdings in those, and until we get a pullback, because they are kind of nutty valuations. But so
Hmm.
that's its own strategy. And then in our large cap strategy portfolios, we own a number of the usual suspects. So CrowdStrike and Palantir in cyber. I'm sorry, and Palo
Hmm.
Alto in cyber. We own Palantir. It's also in the new portfolio. We own names like ServiceNow that are beneficiaries, and then of course Amazon and Microsoft, which we've held Microsoft and
Hmm.
Apple probably since 2013 also. And we've been through, there was a time when Apple's yield was more than the 10-year, and it hovered around 3%. And that's when we began accumulating it. So we like great management teams. I think I've made that really clear. And that's hard to assess, but it's kind of like I'll know it when I see it. And
Hmm.
so we've held those names for a very long time. Broadcom and Nvidia, of course. Broadcom, I've called it the poor man's Nvidia for many years because we owned that first, and then we acquired shares in Nvidia. It's been a monster performer for us. And then in our ETF, our largest holding is Oracle. So that was,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's a
Yeah,
stock
yeah.
I've owned
All
the
good
most.
names. All
Yeah.
great names. Yeah, I love it. Okay. I'm just trying to understand your perspective. But technology it sounds like it's your main love,
Yeah, well,
technology.
yeah, our
Okay.
investing theme, Herbert, is old economy companies that are embracing the new technologies, and then the
Yeah,
suppliers of the picks and shovels. So, poster
yeah,
child for the latter is Walmart. And
yeah,
I love what they just announced. So, they're using robotics and they're using
yeah,
AI and they're digitizing everything and putting stuff on the cloud. But they just announced that AI is transforming the way they do their business, and they're going to hold headcount at 2.1 million for the next 3 years, but they're going while they grow revenues. That's
yeah.
productivity, my friend, and
Oh,
that's
for
that's
sure. Yeah.
that's the front
It's
of,
showing up now. Yeah.
yeah.
And that will generate profits now, this year, next year,
And
immediately,
for these
right?
people that
Yep.
say nobody's making money on
Yeah,
AI,
they
it's
are.
it's nuts. I mean, it's going straight to
Yeah.
margins that are near historic
Yeah.
highs, and we're hearing it from every company in every not every company, but most companies in every sector that we own.
Okay. Let's go back to Tesla. So you're obviously a big fan of Elon. What was your reaction to the 2025 CEO Performance Program Award?
Oh,
But
I didn't see it. I'm sorry. What was
of
this
course you have.
from the
No, you
company?
do. The 2020 CEO performance. This is
Oh,
Elon's performance award.
yeah, yeah,
Come
yeah.
on, you know it. 12
Gosh,
tranches.
I thought there was a,
One.
I thought it was the Nobel Prize and I missed it. Yeah, I mean,
It's not the award. Award is actually what they call it, actually. But I stumbled because it's not an award. It's like it's his plan. He has to hit these targets
yeah,
and
he
get
earned
them.
it. Yeah. Yeah. So I love it. I mean, I did an interview with a very large skeptic of Tesla and Elon. And, when incentives are lined up with the shareholders, that's
Mhm.
always a good thing. You can't pay him enough. And in my view, and I think there's a few CEOs like that. I mean, Jensen Huang's probably in that category, Tim Cook for different reasons,
Mhm.
Satya Nadella. So in that regard, they create so much shareholder value, so many
Mhm.
jobs, so much growth and productivity throughout the economy. In my view, they should be paid an unlimited. I mean, there shouldn't be a limit. And so the nutty business that went on in Delaware, I'm glad they moved the company. I expect he will hit every target. I really
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you think the 12 tranches made sense?
Yeah,
20 million cumulative cars, 1 million autonomous car vehicles, and then a million robots, and
right.
FSD subscription. Did you think that those made sense to you
Yeah, they
as a
do.
portfolio manager from your perspective? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thrilled to see that, and that was one of the things that increased our conviction.
Yeah.
Because if you've got somebody like him who, as he says in his biography, he says, "I'm programmed for war." So this
Hmm.
is what motivates the dude. Let's let him do it. And
Hmm.
I think setting those, what do we call them, reach goals is perfectly appropriate. I mean, the previous pay package, he hit that target that no one thought he would hit, and he still hasn't been paid for it. That feels
Hmm.
un-American to me. I don't resent
Yeah. Yeah.
people making a lot of money.
Exactly. Yeah. Hit in 2.5 years. Um, And then, do you think that so this new pay package? What about his investment of $1 billion? Is that
Love
like
that.
some people go, "That's huge. It's $1 billion," and other people go, "Yeah, but for Elon, that's like $10,000 to me."
Well, he bought him, and to me, that's what matters. He's putting, I mean, I hate cliches, but he is putting his money where his mouth
Mhm.
is. I'd rather he invest in that than some in Tesla than something else. So I think, and he wants to be able to vote the shares. I
Yeah.
don't blame him. I mean, he's the vision, and he is the difference. I mean, you just have to have watched his career. He's the one that
Hmm.
makes it happen. And sure, he has competent people working for him, and some real innovative minds working in the company. But he's the driver, and so I like that he bought the shares. He can buy more if he wants. I didn't think he
Hmm.
should have bought more.
Yeah.
I just think, yeah, he wants to have a significant control over the company, and I don't blame him one bit.
Yeah.
I
I've
want him
talked.
to have it too.
Yeah, I do too. I've spoken to a number of other analysts who actually believe that he will be investing more than this is just the beginning. 1 billion here, up to 5 billion next year, something like that. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think he needs to, but
Well,
it's
you bet on
interesting.
yourself too. I mean, he knows he can make more money if he's, in what he knows he can do, I guess is what I'm saying. Like I
Right.
invest in all of our strategies because I have confidence in the team and my experience
Hmm.
in managing them. So yeah, so I loved that. Those are all positives in our view. And we do 12 fundamental factors. We do a review when we buy a stock, and we write a report, and then we do it constantly. And those are
Hmm.
all things that we look for. Catalyst for outperformance. So you've got a number with Tesla. And then is management aligned? And are they increasing their exposure to the shares? That's always a good thing.
Okay, so catalysts over performance. Do you think that FSD version 14, which may actually launch today, or not today, sorry, this week, by the time we publish this on Saturday or Sunday, it might have already been, distributed to a small group of people. It's supposed to be that much better, right? 10 times parameters compute. It's going to be 2 to 3 times safer than a human. Eventually it will be sentient. These are all Elon's comments. But FSD version 14 by itself is not a catalyst. Do you think, or do you think, and the next catalyst for Robotaxi? Do you think that it's expansion that would be a catalyst, or is it once they remove the safety rider?
Yeah, I think they're all catalysts, to be honest.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I think one of the things that's lost on people with FSD. So I live in Phoenix half the year, and this is the
Yeah.
land of the Waymo. And so
Yeah.
we're accustomed to seeing, cars with no drivers at every intersection. They're all over the
Mhm.
place. So what people forget is that the comparison of FSD to a human,
Mhm.
and that's where the error occurs, is usually human error. So I love that they are continuing to pound that message and continuing to innovate. And there's been a lot of positive comments about FSD in recent weeks from people that have utilized it. There was the analyst that drove from the East Coast to Chicago, I think, and talked about what a wonderful
Mhm.
experience it was. And then got my son's version, which is text and wait for the car to beep at you. So that's a form. But and then in
Yeah.
terms of Robotaxi, yes, 100%, they can overcome the regulatory hurdles. And I think this concern that the government and in particular the president was going to go after
Mhm.
Elon and after SpaceX and Tesla, that has melted. And I
Mhm.
think we just saw some contracts signed. I think it's, in space, they are the only game in town for the most part. So I think seeing the regulatory burden be lifted will be a big positive for Robotaxi. And then Optimus, I hope he hits his targets sooner rather than later, because we need robots on the engineering.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, on the manufacturing line, and really just contributing to manufacturing in general.
What are you expecting by 2026? So
And
this is the end of 2025 for Tesla, and then 2026. What are you expecting that Optimus will already be sold? Robotaxi will be in how many states? What's your
Well,
you know
so I probably
forecast?
would. I rely on the Wall Street analysts for some of the data, because we don't run models. We're doing the fundamental research. And but I do think a couple of things. I think Dan Ives has been very
Mhm.
good on the company, and so is the RBC analyst, who though got kind of squirrely and then came back and recently upgraded the stock. So I think we expect to see Optimus operating in manufacturing, and particularly on the Tesla line. So I think that's a positive. In terms of robo taxis, I don't know how many they're going to have, but I just look to the 2025 award pay package and say, use that as a guidepost, because I think that's where they're going to end up. He's not going to miss those targets.
No, he's not going to hit the. Any guesses on which one he'll hit first? Because this has been a great topic for me and a lot of my expert guests, because it's tough to guess which one is going to be the hardest, which one will be easiest. But you know,
I Yeah, I mean, I think the robo-taxi rollout, because it's so dependent on city by city regulatory bodies, that may be the harder one to hit.
mhm.
But that said, I think once you start to get the miles under the robotaxi belt, if you will, that it will snowball. So that might be the hard. I don't know if it's the hardest one to hit, but it might be one of the hardest ones to hit. I hope that he hits Optimus first, because I think that's the future of the company, and
Yeah.
robotics in general.
Yeah, see, he did say though that it's going to be a million Optimus, but not until 2030. Now he
Yeah,
might have sandbagged that number, and so because of that, I think that actually the robotaxi might be earlier
earlier hit.
because
Yeah, you could be
making the
right.
20, yeah, 8 million more, 12 million more vehicles is 12 million more vehicles you have to make, but every Tesla makes is every vehicle they make is robotaxi ready, so it's just a matter
Right.
of like yeah, getting regulatory approval. But it's a fun question.
Yeah.
So right now, generally, most portfolio managers and institutional analysts, they don't still recognize Optimus. They don't put it into their
Right.
price targets. They talk about it now. More of them are talking about it, but they're not. It's always like, okay, it's. I'll have to talk about Robotaxi, of course, energy. You are way ahead of energy before other portfolio managers. But when does Optimus be recognized as a catalyst?
Yeah, so that's what I was talking about at the beginning. That's why they're all furiously running to upgrade this stock because they don't want it to get away from them, but it already kind of
Yeah.
has.
Yep.
And the reason it got away from them is because they can't model something that doesn't really exist in terms of
Hmm.
revenues. But if you're a thinking man's portfolio manager, what
like
you and we have
I
to
like that.
operate.
Is that a professional term?
No, but we have to operate differently than Wall Street because they're modeling and we're thinking. We're thinking about what's going to drive the company in the future. And if you look at the macro situation, we need robots and we need them yesterday. So when
Mhm.
will they show up in the models? I mean, probably a year late, probably a year after the company is monetized and shown momentum
Mm.
in deliveries. But I don't know because I only use Wall Street for the factual content. I don't use them for the upgrades or because they're always wrong at turning points. They always downgrade after the fact and they
Mhm.
upgrade after the fact. I've never figured out how to make money that way. So I do look at their models and we do
Mhm.
look at the numbers, but we don't base our buy and sell decisions on that. We base it on our 12 fundamental factors, and the three qualitative ones are the most important: management, industry dominance, and incentives and catalyst. So
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha. And then the broader economy, I saw that you have said that markets have real tailwinds and focus will return to fundamentals. I think you did a show on that. And of course, Tesla is a beta stock, right? It responds very nicely to economy, but they're going to cut interest rates. They already did. They'll cut more. What are you seeing for Tesla's outlook based on its relation to the macro?
Yeah, I think it will accelerate, even though the tax credit is going away or went
Hmm.
away today, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, I think we'll continue to see acceleration in the usage of not just the EVs, but FSD. And it was funny because when I was talking to my son about it, I said, "Why don't you get it?" And he said, "Well, it's too expensive." Now he's a Navy pilot, so he doesn't make a lot of money. And I said, "Well, I think it's only like $90 a month." And he goes, "Yeah, it's too expensive." And I just never thought of it that way. I think that's a pretty reasonable price for the product. But as the company, as adaptation increases and the price comes down, you'll see more adaptation. I mean, we know that from previous technology booms. I I think Tesla will benefit from the one big beautiful bill, bonus depreciation. So to be able to depreciate capex in the U.S., interest deduction, good thing, and then R&D credits, which is a one time. The other two are permanent tailwinds. And so if you look at where that's going to go to the bottom line, about 158 billion dollars in cash tax savings is going to go to the Mag 7, of which
Mm.
Tesla is a member. So if they can improve their cash flow, and the cash tax savings will do that, then I think you'll continue to see innovation, capex spending on expansion, and I think they will benefit as the economy grows. And the consumer, especially the high end consumer, is still in really good shape, and that it tends to be who buys Tesla. And all the what was it, 3 or 4 months ago, probably when we were buying the stock was when nobody was ever going to buy another Tesla again because
Yes.
Elon had tarnished the image. It's just not ever true permanently. And he pulled back
Yeah.
wisely. And, he's still on X because he still makes me laugh. But in general, I think he's moderated that and
Mm.
mitigated it, frankly. I don't think it's an issue anymore. And we're starting to
Hmm.
see it pick up in other parts of the world.
So is Tesla a Mag 7?
I
There's
think
a
it
lot of
is.
people. I know it is. I'm just saying there's just a lot that are saying, no, it's not anymore.
Yeah.
Why is it up? Is number 10 in the top 10 companies, like at 1 point something trillion? It's the 10. I think they might have jumped in the eighth, but that's where they're hovering right now. But
Yeah, I mean, it's all about cycles. Amazon hasn't done much of anything for the last year. It will, and we've been adding to it. But
mm,
I think it's kind of a silly discussion. It depends on how. I mean, I don't mean that you asked me it, and I don't mean it silly that way. But I mean the way that people
no,
talk about it.
I was joking.
I
I'm being
know, I know.
ironic. There are others who have been saying that. And
Yeah, no, I know.
okay.
I hear them on TV, and I think that's nonsense. I mean, innovative wise, growth wise. The growth will return. It's already returning. They have other businesses, as we've talked about, that people don't pay attention to, the energy business being one. So I think that the company is maintaining its dominance in and expanding it in AI, in robotics, and who knows? I mean, I think they're working on quantum. So a chip.
Yeah,
So that's kind of
yeah,
exciting.
could be.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the AI? You know, there's that you just mentioned earlier that you do see productivity. AI is a real thing. It's not a fad. NVIDIA, of course, is just unbelievable what they're doing. And then, do you see Tesla as the only real world AI company? You know, very separated, or how do you see AI first as an industry where it's going, and then where Tesla fits in?
Yeah, so I would again, I hope we get to own shares in XAI, and I know that that's
Hmm.
going to be a consideration. But I use Grok. I don't know
Hmm.
if you use Grok. I think it's
Hmm.
tenfold
Yeah.
better than
Yeah.
all of the other providers. And so I heard somebody get asked today, is OpenAI overvalued? Is it undervalued? Will they
Mm-hmm.
be the dominant player? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
convinced they will. And I know that's probably controversial, but um, they have a big hurdle to get over in terms of this not-for-profit, good for the world company situation that they're in, and they're trying to convert to a public company. I'm not so sure it's going to be that easy. But that's not what you asked me. What you asked is, where do we see it? We see it in every aspect. So it's real.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to be utilized and combined with quantum to do things like develop drugs. That's not innovative. It's not a earth-shattering statement. Everybody knows that, but we're beginning to see that happen. We're seeing it in pricing models. You know, Uber uses AI to price.
Mm-hmm.
So does oh God, I just forgot the other company, but we're seeing it in enhancements of industrial automation. We're seeing it in retail. At your peril. Again, don't own Walmart because they got it and they
Mm-hmm.
got it early, and Target didn't, and neither did Kohl's.
Mm-hmm.
So it is going to transform some companies and it's going to leave other companies behind. I hated what the government did with Intel. They got so far behind. Um, I don't think the government has any business owning a private company, but that's an
Mm-hmm.
example of what happens when you don't adapt. And maybe they'll get bailed out, but we bailed out Chrysler twice and then they went bankrupt. So it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't usually work that well. Just ask Solyndra.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the companies that are adopting and adapting to AI are going to be the winners and the leaders going forward. And you can kind of see it in every industry. I mean, Goldman Sachs has been aggressive in adopting AI to do circulars, offering circulars, stuff that entry level employees did before. Now you've got the announcement with JP Morgan today. So I,
Yeah.
I think it's in every sector, and I think that's exciting. I mean, even Starbucks is using AI to improve delivery and supply chain. So
And then Tesla's AI is different, right? It's got real world data.
yes,
Do anyone understand that? Do other portfolio managers, do they understand this?
I don't think so because it's nobody's talking about it, and I think we'll get another event from Elon. I imagine in the coming months. Maybe it'll be in the next year, but I think it's going to be on him to help direct people how to think about the company because there are a lot of moving parts and. He's involved in a lot of things, and how those all come together, I think, are going to be critical. But yeah, you're right. I mean, is Tesla the premier AI company? Could be, could be. I don't know who else is as far
Yeah.
along.
You're an independent thinker. I like that, Nancy. You had one show that said, "Do not underestimate Tim Cook." Okay, sorry, you have to convince me a little bit. I'm sure we're thinking of it slightly different, but well, let's hear you out.
Yeah. So we just put Apple this week into our 12 best ideas portfolio, but
What?
I
Okay, let's
know for
go. Let's go.
defensive reasons. We took it. I'm going to grab my water. We took it.
Yeah, you're gonna get set.
for the argument. We took it from CMG, Chipotle. So we really view it more as a consumer discretionary company. But
Mhm.
he has been, when we bought the stock, it was after the Google Maps debacle. So right after he took
Mhm.
over, and
That
people
was
talked
great.
about how he was
Yes.
no Steve Jobs, and
Mhm.
he wasn't, thank goodness, because the
No,
stock's up something like 2,000% or more since he,
exactly.
yeah.
Understood. Yeah.
So he did a lot of things right, and then they got behind on AI, and they haven't
Mhm.
really innovated. That said, we own different stocks in the portfolio for different reasons. We're not looking
Mhm.
to Apple as a great future innovator. We're looking at
Okay.
them as a more defensive way to play technology and consumer discretionary to some extent. I thought
Mm.
the I always call it what would Jesus do conference, the worldwide developers conference. I
Yeah.
thought it was kind of ho hum.
Yeah.
I didn't think the announcements were that great. However, we bought a bunch of the shares at $204 a share, and now the thing's at 250 just a couple months later. So
Mhm.
sometimes you just want to get in front of these movements. It had done nothing for over a year. We had been net sellers the previous 3 years, and but still held a core position, and so we're adding back to that. And that's really the reason. He's a grown up. He's a good operator. When they warned on earnings in I think it was January of 2019, I wrote a piece, is Apple sauced? And we decided it wasn't, and we bought a bunch. And that was a great entry
That's
point.
a good title.
But he, he sent a letter out. He managed expectations, and in that regard, I think
Mm.
you got to love the guy. I mean, you see him at the the launch at the New York store, and he's taking selfies and hugging people. Doesn't make him a great CEO, but it does go to character, and I think
Mhm.
I think we get a few more years out of him, and I think that's going to be a good thing.
Okay. I mean, okay, so you said all the right things, which is great. You recognize that the AI progress there is a debacle.
Yeah.
But he's a great operator, no doubt. And he took the company where it is today. But we just talked at length here about how AI is transforming every industry. Here's Apple just fumbling the whole thing. I can't stand Apple Intelligence on my iPhones. I don't use it. I turn them all off. I saw Google, the latest phone, and I was like, just, salivating at what they were able to show, how they're going to use AI. And I'm like, for the first time in my life, I thought, should I actually buy a Google phone, an Android
Of
phone?
course. Yeah.
Horrors. But it's like, what a shame for Siri to be first, with Steve Jobs recognizing how important this could be, buying that company and putting it in, exciting, and then this is its legacy. It's a shame. And I do not see how they are, I mean, they're partnering. And so
That's the only way
they'll
they're going to solve the problem.
right. But
Yeah.
I don't know. And so you just spent the whole, your investment thesis is about AI, and then here's a company that doesn't get it yet, and they struggled. So,
Yeah, no, you're right. And so it seems somewhat contradictory, but what I would say is the antitrust decision was
yeah.
huge because it will allow them to partner, I think. And I'm not a Gemini user. I do own Google in some of the portfolios, but I think that's how they're going to get there. There was all this talk: are they going to buy Perplexity? Well, they Apple has never been one to integrate cultures. I mean, the biggest, as you know,
Right.
transaction they made was Beats, and I never really even
Hmm.
understood that. So
Hmm.
it's a company that has to home grow it or partner, and they're going to partner. And so they won't be leading edge, but they'll have enough. They'll have what people. You're a purist, and obviously you're on the on the innovative, leading edge side of early adapter. But most
Hmm.
people just they want to say, "What are my appointments for today?" And they're going to use it in a very different way. And then, of course, pay way too much attention to the quality of the camera. But they're selling. The upgrade cycle seems to be finally intact,
Yeah.
and I think they've learned a lot. And he's going to announce a partnership. There's no doubt in my mind with Google.
Yeah. My friends laughed at me because like I said this, and then they're like, yeah, but you just bought two AirPods and the new phone upgraded from last year's phones because I needed to get live translation and I needed to get the better
That is
cameras. And
cool.
so
Yeah.
Is that hilarious? It's like, yeah, well,
Yeah. It's hard to leave the
but
ecosystem, Herbert. It's
no,
hard to leave.
I will not. It's a great product and all that. It's just that I'm looking at Tesla. Okay, Apple will double. Apple will grow 20, 25% and will double. But I'm looking for the big disruptions like Tesla. I'm hoping for companies that will 10x. I don't see Apple 10xing. And of course, there are law of large numbers. But I think that well, okay, I
But
wouldn't say they're going to
NVIDIA
double.
is
Hold on.
behind that.
I don't. Nvidia will get to 10 trillion. I don't. Apple will double over time. Like I think
Yes.
it'll take them a long time. So I still think they're growing. It's just that they're not. I'm not. They're just not going to be that innovative company like Nvidia can be or Tesla can be. So
And it's
yeah,
not in our innovative portfolio. It's in our large cap equity portfolios. They grow the dividend 5%. It's not much of a
yeah,
yield anymore, but it's
buybacks. Yeah.
yeah, it buybacks put a floor under the stock. It's a defensive
Hmm.
technology. It's more like a T-bill of technology
I see.
companies.
Okay, I get
Yeah,
now what you're thinking now. Makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. So
Okay,
we got to
gotcha.
balance our portfolios. That's why it's in there.
Yeah, so not everything has to be this big, risky thing. Do you think that Tesla will do buybacks based on your kind of watching what Apple did, and then at some point Tesla's cash flow will be just ridiculous?
I think they will then. I mean, Elon kind of did a buyback,
Yeah,
by buying $1 billion
yeah,
worth of shares.
yeah,
I think they will eventually, but I don't really want them to do that. And I
hmm,
don't want them to pay a dividend. I want them to
hmm,
reinvest in the business and grow the business. So that to me is he can put a floor under it a lot of different ways. And one of the ways is through buying the shares himself, but also just by delivering. And that's what people are looking for from Tesla. Whereas Apple is not IBM. Remember their financial engineering? That's all they
yep,
did was buy back
hmm,
shares and try to increase earnings growth that way.
hmm,
It's in between certainly Tesla and IBM, Apple that
yeah,
is. So
hmm.
I think you put it as I don't want to call it an anchor because that implies sinking, but you put it in to stabilize a portfolio, and that's what it's done. And you still get growth.
And yeah, with Nvidia investing $100 billion into OpenAI, that
Yeah,
even Elon himself replied saying concerning, but then he came back says next post was something like we'll still be the first to 1 gigawatt compute, 10 gigawatt compute, 100 gigawatt compute. We'll be the first. So he still was pretty confident of that. But were you concerned about that? That
yeah. So
OpenAI?
I'm
Yeah.
not a Sam Altman fan. It's probably
Mm-hmm.
no surprise. I just don't like the way he conducts himself, and but that's neither here nor there. You can still make money with CEOs that you don't like. Think
Mm-hmm.
Mark Zuckerberg, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But I they're doing it in tranches. They're pacing it out to see them hit targets. I don't know that they're ever going to invest $100 billion. That's remains to be
It was
seen.
more of a, yeah. The response by other people I spoke to is just that, as Nvidia, you put yourself in their shoes. You got Tesla being your first, they got first dibs. They're fast in building. They're going to be a big customer for them, but you can't like let one take over. So I'm going to go invest in a bunch of other humanoid robot companies, in other, auto companies, EVs, and I'm going to put into other AI companies as well. We need
Yeah,
to like prop them up. So in a way, that's if you look at it from that lens, it's like almost like yeah, he's recognizing that these guys are second to Tesla, as or could be yeah that they are like I'm going to pick them and they're going to be the winner. But
yeah. I don't think anybody knows right now, and
mm,
anyone who says they do know, I think, is probably
mm,
just you know.
mm-hmm,
But I do know that Elon has innovated with no money or little
mm,
money in the past.
yeah,
That
that's a
doesn't
good point.
guarantee success. In fact, sometimes it hurts success because there's too much money floating around. And I think
Mm-hmm,
there's an element of that. Like what did we just hear that OpenAI earned $5 billion, um, or is expected to earn $5 billion, and they're still not profitable? That's going to be a
mm-hmm,
long time. It's going to look like that. And the question is, is Sam Altman a good operator? He may be, great at the technology, but is he a good operator? I don't think we know that yet. And we do know
that's very good.
that
Yeah,
Elon is.
is very good answer. Okay, what's next for Tesla? What do you foresee that's going to happen?
Oh, like new
Are we at an
technology.
inflection point? Is this a change, or is it going to be more about the same for another couple of years?
I think quantum is the next thing. That would be
So
my,
you think you're guessing, you're just totally guessing, but you're thinking
yeah.
that Elon is going to do quantum computing as well. You believe it's a real thing. It's not just
Well, and he pulled
people.
back, so we'll see. But that's also a pattern with him. He declares and then he pulls back and then he figures it out. I don't honestly, Herbert. I don't know. I mean, I think
Yeah.
like hosting a shareholder meeting where I get to meet him would be the next big
Mhm.
thing for me. But um, no,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I think
Okay.
more the same in the near term. For sure. I mean, we got to get the robots delivered. We got to get Robotaxi rolled out. And I
Mhm.
think then, take a breath and see what he does, combining companies potentially or not. But I'm hoping for that.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Nancy. It's always a joy. You're ahead of most other portfolio managers. That is for a fact, and you've been there for a long time.
Thank you.
So people can find you at Laffer Tengler Investments.
Yep.
Yep.
LafferTengler.com.
LafferTengler.com. Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
I think that's it. And then your X account
At N Tengler. Super easy.
at N Tengler. Perfect. Thank you so much, Nancy. Check her out. Follow her. She's a portfolio manager, and she's done a really good job. So I like the
Thanks,
way you think.
Herbert.
Appreciate you.
Love the show.
Yeah, you too. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.